Okay.
So we've promised you 5 copywriting secrets that can instantly enhance and improve your work. So here they are. Know exactly who you're writing to. So who's your target audience? And you want to get very specific about who you're writing to. So you want to have their demographic information to the point where you can picture that person sitting in a chair in front of you. So you want to know their gender, you want to know their age, you want to know their income, their ethnicity, what kind of neighborhood they live in. You want to know, ultimately, what keeps them up worrying at night? Who is this person? You want to have a very clear picture of them in your mind and a profile. And so when you sit down to write, you're writing to that one person. A, it'll make your job easier, and B, it will make your copy much crisper and clearer. Because when you're writing copy, your job is to deliver a focused message. And the more focused you are on who you're writing to, the better your message will be. You want to create headlines that are benefit-rich. We'll talk about benefits versus features here in a little while, but you want to make sure you've got a moment to grab somebody's attention. You want to make sure you grab them, and they're hit between the eyes with the idea that this is for me. You're writing specifically to me. The more I see something and think, how did they know that, the better the headline is. You want to write to their pain. Jillian, I'm going to turn this over to you.
So this is really important. You know, writing to somebody's pain is all about making sure that they see themselves in your copy. They see, oh, how does this happen? We are emotional beings. We will work really hard to stop what's hurting, and not ever so much as hard to work at what's already feeling good. And it's interesting because we all know that nothing stays the same. But, you know, when you feel good about something, you're content. And contentment never creates a lot of energy to keep moving. We're happy. But pain creates a lot of energy for us to keep moving. And that's what we really want to do. We want to make sure that you're writing directly to their pain, that they see themselves in your copy. Because as soon as they do, they're raising their hand saying, ouch, that's me. How did they know that was me? And then what you're going to do is provide a very clear and certain solution. And so part of what we're going to do is share that secret with you today so that you understand how to share your copy in such a way that they see not only themselves having the issue, but then themselves having that solution. And then the last one, the 5th secret, and actually I will tell you this is a big heads up. This is the secret that I think most of us don't do anywhere in business well, and we don't do it in our copy very well, and that's the crystal clear call to action. Because nothing happens until we invite people to take that next step. So these are the secrets. You've probably heard them before, but you haven't seen them maybe grouped together like this. And what you haven't seen is how we're going to show you how to make them come to life in your copy. So Amy.
Give me I'm just throwing this out to all of you listening. I want you to shut your eyes for a moment. And what's the first word that comes to you when you think of sales or a salesperson? And whatever that word is, don't censor it. I'm going to invite you to enter it into the box here, into the chat box, and just shoot it over to us. Whatever came to you first. If you don't have your chat box, there's a little orange arrow up at the top of your panel. It's a toggle. Toggle it open. You'll see there's a chat box. Type in what you want to say and hit send. And I just want to see what comes to mind for you when you think of sales or salespeople. I'll just give you 10 or 15 seconds to pop something in there. Let's see what comes in. Okay. So typically what we get here is, pushy, sleazy, aggressive, talks too much, won't let you out alive, scary, terrifying. You know, it's like this shark in the suit that we have pictured. It's the proverbial used car salesman, the person that corners you and doesn't let you out until you buy not what you want, but what they want you to buy. And so there's a lot of negativity around the word sales, around the idea of sales, around the profession of sales. So let's bust through some of the myths, because good copy is about sales. So let's bust the myths around sales. All sales is, when done well, is it's a consultative profession. Somebody has a need, and somebody is there to fill that need. So if you need something, maybe you need a great doctor, maybe you need a new car, maybe you need a new computer. There's somebody who is knowledgeable who can help you based on your needs find the item that is right for you. It's not about them selling you what they have a lot of inventory of, or what they think they want you to have because they make a bigger commission. It's about me figuring out what works for you and helping create that bridge between you and the thing that you need. Your job...
Sorry, Amy, I was going to jump in. Go ahead.
Is to write copy that illustrates the need, and that's the pain. So, when we talk about the pain, it may sound odd, it may sound mean, but what you want to do, someone's got a wound, you want to open it, and you want to insert the salt. You want them to feel the pain, and then you want to provide a solution. I'll just give you an example. Something came across my desk recently, another copywriter who needed some help writing to an audience that was diabetic. And there was a product that would help people to feel better. Now, it wasn't a pharmaceutical product, but what they didn't do and what the copy lacked was it didn't point out what's the pain a person who has this disease is feeling. Well, yes, they have the physical symptoms, but what's happening to their life? They're eating a diet they don't like. They're limited socially. This is insulin-dependent diabetics who, in some cases felt like, they had to pack a whole rig to leave the house, and so their social life was limited. They weren't living the full expression of their life. They were missing out on family activities. And so what this product could do was help you to lead a more normal life. Your blood sugar would get under control, and suddenly, guess what? You could eat what you wanted to eat. You could go out with your friends. You didn't have to say no to social situations. You could lead a normal life. So what's their pain? Their pain is they're different than everyone else, and they can't do and eat what they want. So if you can make them feel that pain, and so they can say, oh, that's me. How did they know? How did they know that I feel socially isolated? And now you can come in and say, hey, if you use X, Y, Z, that's going to change for you. Now there's a solution to their pain. That's what good copy does. I'll give you one more example. I have a client I wrote a piece for last year, and he has a product to teach corporate execs how to become entrepreneurs. And so the pain that these people are feeling is, they hate their jobs. So I went and did research. So we talk about, knowing the demographic of who you're writing to. I found some people who, were really busy, important, well-paid corporate execs, and asked them, what's your pain? So their pain is they're road warriors. They're never home. They don't know where they're going to be. They don't know where they're going to be for dinner tomorrow. Their quotas are always being changed. They don't know what's going to be expected of them next month. Will it be enough? They feel like they work too many hours, even though they earn well. They don't feel like they have any control of their lives. They're tired. They don't know if they're going to have their job. They don't know when they're going to be downsized or when their department is going to go extinct and they're going to be moved laterally and paid less. There are all kinds of things going on. And so by being able to picture these people and write to their pain and then tell them, hey, over here there's a solution, you can repurpose everything you know and open a business. What you know already is enough to open a business, because what was their other fear was that there was nothing else that they could do. And they were going to have to live their whole lives like this, that there wasn't a way for them to break out and be independent. And so what the copy did was solve the problem for them. It pointed out their pain, and then, they're really feeling it. They're just, you feel all the energy drained from your body when you read it. That's me, and hey, here's something else you can do. So for people who have that entrepreneurial bent, now there's a program for them. There's a video program and some coaching afterwards to get these people to where they want to be. So that's a good example of sales. And what good copy does is explains to those people in no uncertain terms and sells them, if you will, the solution to their problem.
It's interesting because what you're really saying is that copy is about sales, but what copy really is about is solutions and letting people see that what was at one time impossible and unattainable is now within reach. I think it's so important. It really is. So
sales isn't a dirty word.
No, not at all.
It's what you do.
Right, yes. A celebrated word.
So let's talk before we get into the secrets. Let's examine the idea here of features and benefits and what's the difference. This is, as Jillian said, we were talking about this yesterday. You've probably all heard the old expression. It's sell the sizzle, not the steak. What you want to do is the feature is sell the benefits. Remember, we said a benefit-rich headline is one of the secrets. So the feature is what something does. It's what something is. The benefit is what that something will do for you. So here's a couple of examples. I've done a lot of writing in the dental field, and so something that came online a few years ago that dentists really wanted to let their patients know about, and hence they turned to a copywriter, is to let them know that there is sedation available, anesthetic sedation. So what I found out is people's number one fear of going to the dentist is pain. They avoid it. I mean, they'll walk around with tooth pain because they're afraid of the pain that the dentist will inflict. So if we can talk to people who are terrified of going to the dentist and let them know there is a way now to go to the dentist where, you can walk in, say hello, and you don't remember anything until you walk out and say goodbye. You don't feel a thing. The anesthesia wears off and you're fine. You don't feel a moment's pain. They're comfortable now going to the dentist. So the feature is there's a choice of anesthesia. The benefit is no pain, literally no pain. And it also makes people feel in control because they have a choice. They're no longer going in there not knowing what to expect. If this is something that's important to them, then they'll go in knowing they are not going to feel a thing. So the feature is the choice of anesthesia. The benefit is they're not going to experience pain. It removes their fear. It puts them in control. Here's another example. The home remodeler that uses green and eco-friendly materials. So we know the feature is that these are recycled and environmentally friendly materials. But why does anyone care about that? Well, someone might. Many people do, and they're passionate about it. This is something that's really, really important to some people. There may be other people who have a vague sense that may be important, but they don't know why yet. And so one of the things that we have to do in good copy is don't make any assumptions, and we spell out in very clear terms always. And we'll show you some copy examples here after a little while, so you'll see what we mean and what works and what doesn't. So you can see it in play in real life, if you will. So the benefit here of eco-friendly materials is responsible stewardship. It's good for the environment. You reduce your carbon footprint, and in many cases, these materials are healthier for the end user. There's not a lot of off-gassing. There's not a lot of poisonous and toxic materials, so you don't have to worry about, breathing them in and having them affect your health. And so, in this case, in many cases, these may be more expensive options. And so, the thing to remember about sales and about copy is people, price isn't the motivating factor. It is for some people, for some things, but it's not the motivating factor. If it was, there wouldn't be a big luxury goods market. So we want to make sure that people understand what the benefits are. If somebody has the money and they don't want to buy, it's either not for them or they haven't been convinced yet that the benefits are relevant enough to them to open their wallet and part with the money. I may have plenty of money and it may be something I could easily afford and I'm even interested in it, but if you haven't convinced me that it'll solve my problem, I might move on to the next product and see who can solve it better. And so your job as the copywriter is to paint a word picture and make it visceral so that people can feel it, taste it, see it. They understand what's my future going to be like? What is my bright future using this product? How great am I going to feel if I'm driving that BMW instead of the clunker I've got? Who am I going to be? What's my future going to look like? How are people going to look at me? And so you have to describe that in word pictures. So I get what my bright future is. So I say, you know what? I want that. I want that so bad I'm going to figure out how to make it happen. So let's move on to the secrets and drill down and get specific with you.
Yes. All right. So secret one, and we talked about this, know your audience. Right? But that is something that we all know that we need to know who we're talking to so that we can actually write to what's going on for them. And Amy told you a couple of examples earlier. The one about the corporate exec is, really, she went to great lengths to do some research to find out exactly what was going on in that industry so that people that wanted to go from being a corporate exec could actually take their skills and move them into being an entrepreneur. That took some work. So once you know what your audience is about, who you're speaking to, whether it's particular demographic, whether it be, female, male, it doesn't matter. You need to understand who that audience is. But then something else happens. You don't write to the audience. I know that sounds really strange because I told you just have to understand them. You do. But your copy writes to one person and only one person. It's important that people feel as though they're reading something that you wrote to them, not to them and, thousands of others. Psychology is very important, and we're all listening to the same radio station, right? WIIFM, I'm sure you've heard this. What's in it for me? We naturally focus on something if we think it's written for us and to us, even though it's a generic piece. We respond very differently. Let me give you an example. If I said, or you read, some of you reading this may already know. It's like, that's true, but it doesn't have the punch of you may already know. It's very different. Also, look at the second one, and this one actually could affect all of us here a little bit more. Most of you are here to learn how to write better copy. You're here to learn how to write better copy. More punch. This is really important when you're actually beginning to put your copy together, that you remember. And a trick to this is think of that person. Give that person an image. Put it in front of you while you're writing so that you stay focused on what it is that you're doing. Yes, you're writing to the greater audience, but you want an image, a single image, of who and what that audience looks like so that you can stay really focused on that. Does that make sense, Amy?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And one thing to remember is there aren't multiple people reading your piece. There's usually one person, and someone, if it's really great, someone may be looking over someone else's shoulder. But remember that there's one person that's reading your piece, and write to that one person. It's also a great copy editing suggestion when you go back. In our copywriting boot camp, we talk about copy editing and marinating your piece, and how to write and when it's finished, and how to know that and so on. But one thing that's true is any piece that you write should always sit. I mean, at least overnight. I mean, sometimes you have your back against the wall, and you need to create something quickly, and you get the best thing you can out the door, because what is it Seth Godin says? Done is better than
right,
perfect.
Done is good. Yeah,
right,
perfect never happens, and done is good.
And done is good. But if you can, it's really good to let your piece sit and marinate and go back to it. And if you can do that several times, the better it'll be, the tighter you'll be able to make it, because you'll see things that you didn't see the first time. But one of the big keys in copy editing is to find places where you pluralize, where you're writing to multiple people, and tighten it up by writing to just one person, and you'll see the copy will sing a little bit better. Another one, just while I'm thinking of it, is look for instances of the word that. There's almost always a phrase that follows that can be eliminated, and that's a really great copy editing tip. You go back and you find every place. You can put on your put on your word search, find the word that, and you're going to find probably a lot of sentences that could be tightened up considerably. So let's move on to secret 2.
So I'm sure this doesn't surprise any of you, but emotion drives the train. Right? We're emotional beings. We don't think so. If you were to ask anybody, most of us think that we're very rational, that we're very logical, that we do our homework, that we pay attention to things, and we make our decisions based on concrete things that are important to us. We want a new car, so we'll do the research that we need to do so that we get great gas mileage. We know exactly what it's going to do. We know what we can expect. We know all the things about it, its reliability, everything else, and then we get to the car lot, and then there's this sexy little red one over there, and we buy it because we're emotional people. And that's what you need to remember. And when I said earlier that my graduate work, my undergrad and graduate work is in psychology and political psychology, believe me, it's emotion that drives everything. and it's our pain that drives that emotion really pretty much out the gate, right? Pretty much out the gate. Amy, do you want to talk about this example of emotion here?
So look at this ad, and we talked about benefit-rich headlines. Well, this is not a benefit-rich headline. This is a headline that captures people by their emotion. It's the pouring salt in the wound kind of a headline, and it's a good one because it focuses on the people for whom this product is right. Probably mostly middle-aged and older women who have loose, saggy neck skin. If that's a problem, and if that's something, there's someone who looks in the mirror and sees that, there's all kinds of emotion attached to that about aging, about the quality of your skin. You could even go on to say it's a reminder of your lost youth. There's all kinds of things that you can, all kinds of roads that you can take that down, and what that means to somebody emotionally, and that you can write in your copy. But the first thing that this does is this identifies who this is for. So if somebody is reading this and they're 20 years old and their skin is perfect, they might get a laugh out of it, but they're not going to read the ad. It's not for them. But if you have that problem, you are going to read the ad. And so the job of the headline is to bring your reader in. And there's lots of ways to do that. In our boot camp, we give 20 headline formulas, so that there are, when you sit down and you're staring at the blank screen or the blank piece of paper, and you've got to write about something, there's 20 different ways in, and there's hundreds, but there's 20 ways that you can always get your headline started. You've probably all heard the John Caples example. It's this is an ancient one, but it's they laughed when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to play. This is a headline back from the late 20s, and it is still modeled today. He wrote that for the I think it was the U.S. School of Music. They were doing a correspondence course, and they hired John Caples. He was fresh out of school, and that launched their entire business and made them millions of dollars. And the headline is still copied today. They laughed when but then. I think that's been actually there's some other famous ad campaigns that come to mind, but there's a lot of different ways to get people in. So this is identifying. I think this does very well in identifying the market. So if you can get people to pay attention and say, that's me, you've done a good job.
And it's important to remember that we live in an information world, right? People are being bombarded all the time. You have about that much time to catch their interest. And if you don't, you lose them. So by hitting them, again, and it sounds awful, and the truth is it's what we need to do to get people's attention. You have to say whatever it is that's really bothering them and grab it now. And if this is your issue, this ad gets it. It's right on the mark, right on the mark. Okay, so secret 3, create headlines that are benefit rich. Now we just saw one that did a couple of things, right? The turkey neck was great at getting to pain instantly and getting your attention. It also was a good one because, is there a cream that can fix it? So you've got a great headline there that's catching everybody's attention and also the benefit. And we're going to show you a couple of others in just a minute, because here's the thing. That headline has to get their attention and keep their attention, because they need to be compelled. We talked about the open doors before and bringing people through. They need to be compelled to keep reading. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to worry about it. They are compelled. It's just they want to see where it's going. That's what the headline that's benefit rich does, is it keeps people moving forward. Here's a great one. Amy, you want to talk about this? It's wonderful. Do more, hurt less. This is a benefit rich headline, and this is an interesting ad. We're going to use it in a couple of different ways here. So what we all know is when you're in pain, there are things that you just can't do, or things that you don't feel like doing, or things you do less well. And it doesn't matter if you're in chronic pain, or if you have a headache, or you've cut your finger. When you're in pain, you're aware of it. And when you're in chronic pain, it gets to the point where you don't perform as well. Now, do more, hurt less tells you exactly
what will happen for you. But it's very interesting here that they chose to put do more as the first two words, because what do we know about all of us and about our culture? We all want to do more. We're constantly complaining that we can't do enough, that we have too much to do, that we're too busy, that we can't get to the things that we want to do, that our list is too long. So do more is great just in and of itself, because it strikes an emotional chord. But do more and hurt less taps into the pain. In this case, it's the literal pain. It's not the psychological pain, although the do more adds a level of psychological pain too, because what it's saying here is you can't do as much as you want to because you're in pain. And whatever that thing that you want to do is. So it's a really good headline. And what I love about what they've done here is their subhead, and subheads are really important. One of the things we teach when we teach people to write sales letters is you write a sales letter that has a headline and that you can read the entire premise through the subheads and to the PS, because if you can get somebody in there, they'll go back and read the whole letter. So subheads are critically important in copywriting. So what they've done here with the subhead is it says pain relief for, and you may not be able to see that, but on the box it says pain relief for muscle pain and stiffness. So now they've told you exactly what it's for. But they've done something else here that's very clever, which is they've got good marketing on their box, because it tells you on the box in no uncertain terms what this product is for. But interestingly, they've done some brand awareness, because now you've seen the box. When you see that box in the store, you know exactly what it is. And here's what we know in traditional marketing and advertising. It's a little bit different on the web, but in more traditional media, typically people need to see something 7 to 9 times before they take action. And so what they've done with this ad is they've created some brand awareness so that when you go and see this in the store, you may not need it at the moment, but you will have seen it before. It's now a familiar product that you feel warm towards. And so very clever use of headline and subhead. Real simple ad, but it hits the point really well. And we're going to come back to this ad a little later and talk about the coupon at the bottom. But let's move on to our next. Oh, actually, wait. I want to move on. I want to show you. I've got one more ad I want to show you here.
Let me just move that slide back. There you go.
No, bring me to the next one if you would.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me to go back. I beg your pardon. I had clicked it. There you go. State Farm.
So here's what I want to show you. This is an example, and I apologize to this man, and I realize I should have probably taken his name and contact information off of it. He looks like a very friendly, amiable fellow. Yet I think his ad is really bad, and he probably didn't write it. So what the problem with this ad is it's cute. It's a cute headline. So it says here, it's for car insurance. It's a State Farm agent, and it says, "Cause you never know what you might run into." And you may not be able to see it clearly, but there's a little cartoon there of a car hitting a tree, and there's lots of steam billowing up, presumably from the the cracked radiator or whatever. And that's true. You never know what you might want to run into. But I mean, talk about a topic that has emotional pain. Car wrecks are painful. They're physically painful. I mean, they change lives, sometimes in irreparable ways. And I'm not talking necessarily about fatal car wrecks, but that's certainly true. If you've ever been in one, or someone that you know well, or someone that you love has been in one, it can change their life. So it's a place where you really want to be protected. I mean, insurance. Some people, we have to have car insurance. If you drive a car, you have to have car insurance. And so I think if there's a way in a headline to tell somebody that they're going to be safe and protected no matter what happens, because if you have an accident, the last thing you want to do is start screwing around with your policy and wondering, what's going to be covered and what's not going to be covered. You want a good advisor and consultant who's going to tell you, what's going to be right for you, for the kind of vehicle you own, for the kind of driving you do, for the members of your family and what they do, so that if something ever happens, you don't have to worry about a thing, and you don't have to be, cursing your insurance agent because if they had only told you this, now this wouldn't have happened. And so this is a real missed opportunity. it's cute, but I don't think it's going to get anybody to take action. Maybe you see him around town and, he's got a nice smiling face and you may say hi and you may remember he's the State Farm insurance agent that you saw. I saw his picture, but it's an example of a bad headline. So let's move on. I just wanted you to take a look for comparison purposes.
Okay. So secret 4 is providing a clear and certain solution. So you're painting a vision of their future, right? So extra, extra is right there. They really need to see how this is going to change everything. It's the key to getting people to take that next step. It's the key to actually your conversion, right? Because we're all writing copy because we want people to do something. They're going to go from look to consider to making a decision and moving forward. That's what this is about. And so your solution needs to be clear. A confused buyer does not buy. A confused buyer does not buy. So here's an example. And this is a fun one. Amy and I have talked about this one a lot. It's actually one of my favorites of examples that we use. So you see, shower easily, shower safely. Now, anybody got any doubts here about what we're talking about? No, it's right there. You know that we're talking about shower easily, shower safely. For people that can't get in and out of a bathtub, that can't get in and out of a shower, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. But this ad is a really interesting ad because if you look to the column where you have ultra low entry means nothing to step over, okay, great feature. Now look at the next underneath. You can't read it. I'll read it to you. It's regain your independence. So Amy and I have had a lot of fun with this because that line could really go above. It's hidden. It's a great ad, but it could be a greater ad. Regain your independence. Shower easily. Shower safely. Because this is a dignity issue. Now think for that just a moment. If you can get in and out of the shower easily, you haven't thought about it. But if you can't, it means somebody has to help you. Somebody has to be there on the way in. Somebody has to be there on the way out. So not only is it about independence, it's about dignity. This is huge, and it's been buried. Doesn't need to be. It should be on the top. Amy, I know you have some comments on this too.
Well, I think it's interesting. This is actually a company that does a lot of ads. And I'm always scouring things. I love reading ads anyway, but I'm always scouring magazines, because we're teaching copy classes, and I want to have good examples. And this is a company that writes products directed at senior citizens, and they do a pretty good job most of the time. But it's interesting that there's sometimes they just sort of miss the pain point or what the real challenge is. And I don't know if any of you have seen their. And see where I just said any of you. What I could have said is I don't know if you've seen, because any of you. There's a good copy slip. It's talking. It's a little different, but see how that happens. So I don't know if you've seen the ad for the jitterbug. That was a campaign that they were doing in AARP and other magazines, but they've taken out. They may have even taken it to TV. I don't know, but you see it around a whole lot more. And what they do, they make a lot of presumptions about what people's pain is, and they don't hit it. And it's an interesting thing because they spend, I think it's called First American, or I don't know what the company is that puts out all of these products or represents all these products. But there's a case of being able to do a little better research and really tweak up an ad. And here's something that's true for copywriters, particularly if you're writing for clients. People often ask, well, how do you get in and how do you get started? And again, that's something we cover in boot camp, and there's a lot of interesting things about breaking into the copywriting business as a freelancer, and it's a really great profession, and there's a lot of work out there. But one of the things that happens typically in this industry is you can write a control piece, or you can go to a company and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. If you put something here about regaining your independence first, this might get you better results. Because any of these ads that are designed to generate direct response, which we're going to talk about here in the next slide, are measurable. And you can see here they have a special offer for members only, $1,200 instant rebate. So it's not the best response device, but that's not the point here. The point is they've got one, and so they know if people are responding to this. So, it could be tested to see, well, if you put this other headline here, or you led more with the pain, then would you get a better response? Would you get people's attention more readily? Would you get more if you tapped into their pain? So I think it's an interesting piece, and I encourage you to start looking at different advertising and see, if you don't already, see what grabs you. What motivates you, and what do you feel is visceral, even if you're not the target audience? Where's their visceral pain, or what can you do? What would you do differently to make it more compelling and more appealing? And well, I don't want to jump ahead. I want to talk to you about direct response, but we'll get there in a moment. I don't get ahead of myself. Let's move on to Secret 5.
Okay. So this is a piece that I think gets left out of almost everything we do. It's not just copy, actually. This is the close. This is asking people to take that next step. This is asking people to move themselves from where they are to make a decision. We're asking people to say yes to us. We're asking people to say no to us. This is what doesn't happen. And in your copy, if it doesn't happen, you will have people, it's fascinating. They'll be saying things like, this is really great, and then put it down because you haven't told them what to do next. Now, think about this. You have a good friend. You don't see each other very often. You either talk occasionally by telephone, or maybe you run into them. And you say something like, we need to get together. We need to have dinner. We need to have lunch. We need to do whatever. Yes, yes, we do. I'll call you okay, and hugs, and off you go. But no one actually closes anybody to when. So what happens? The next time you bump into them, or the next time you pick up the phone and you catch up again, oh, we need to get together. This is something you want to do, and it still doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because there's not a clear call to action. And I think this is something that we all need to remember, that people don't take the next step typically unless they're asked to take the next step. So, Amy, we're back to do more, hurt less. You want to talk about this?
I do, and I'm going to ask you all to forgive me a moment, because I just wanted, you can leave the slide here, but I just want to say one thing when we were talking about this last piece and the idea of regain your independence, because there was a point I wanted to make, and that is, I talked earlier about copy editing, and this is the kind of thing, if you let a piece sit and you go back to it, you'll find sometimes you can rearrange it and make it more powerful. And one of the techniques that you can use just to practice, or you can use on your own pieces, is cut them up. Literally print them out and cut them up with a scissor, or scissors. I'm always getting chastised because I say it wrong. I know it's not a scissor. You can rearrange the copy, and sometimes something will jump out at you that you didn't see. And sometimes what you'll know is that the piece you've written really works because the rearrangement doesn't work. But there's, we talk about kill your darlings in writing copy, and that is, we get very attached to things that we write that are clever. Sometimes you come up with this just great turn of phrase, or you describe something and it almost sounds, feels poetic, or like you've written a piece of literature, which copywriting is not, by the way. It just isn't, and it's not meant to do that. It's meant to do a job, and it's fun to write, and it's great stuff. I'm not putting it down. At all. But every now and again, you write something that's just beautiful or feels brilliant, but you know what? It's not right for the piece. And it's very, very hard to let it go if it doesn't serve. It's just really hard. But you have to learn how to do that. It's one of the reasons that it's great to have a copy partner, or somebody who you can work with, somebody you trust who can read your work and say, you know what? This doesn't work. This piece doesn't work. You have to cut it out. And another thing that will happen, you'll find as you read your pieces over, there'll be a place that you always get stuck. It's like a pothole. It doesn't flow. You get stuck right there. And it's usually, if that happens, 2 or 3 times, it's an indication that it needs to be rewritten. Either that piece can be eliminated altogether, and or it needs to be written differently because the bridge isn't happening. And bridges are very important, particularly in longer pieces of copy. So let's get back to the do more, hurt less here. So what we teach is direct response in copywriting, because here's the thing in marketing, If you do image and brand marketing, I mean, unless you're, Coca-Cola and you can afford to just put your name out in front of everyone, what you need to know is, are your advertising dollars working? It's very, very important. And as obvious as that may seem, it's a lot of people don't know. They don't know if what they're doing is delivering them results, and they don't have metrics. They're not tracking. And as a copywriter, particularly as a freelancer, this is a real added value that you can bring to your clients. There is nothing that should go out their door or be on their website that doesn't capture either someone's name or capture results, so that you can know if something is effective. So here's what they've done here on the Do More, Hurt Less. They've given a $2 coupon. It's what we call in copywriting the response device. It's often, if you get a sales letter and there's a postcard in there or a apply envelope, that's the response device. This is a response device here in an ad, and it's a good one. Because what happens, I mean, you could run this without a coupon, but if you put a coupon in, a couple of things will happen. Well, A, you may sell more product. That's obviously something that you want to do. B, you have a reason for people to take action by a deadline, because this coupon is dated, as most coupons are. Now, C, you build in some more brand awareness, because what happens with a coupon? I mean, they print the coupon with the little dotted line, which, sometimes there's a little dotted line with scissors, so it's telling you cut this out. So when I cut out a coupon, I've got a little place that I put them in my kitchen, a little ceramic mug that I put things like that in. Hopefully I look at them again. No, I usually do. But so what happens, and they'll sit on the end of my counter usually before I put them there. So what happens right there is their brand is in my house. It's not just sitting in a magazine whose cover I close. I may see that a half a dozen times before I stick it in that little cup. I handle it. I'm making a little bit of a buying commitment. I'm saying, I want to try this. I should next time I'm someplace they sell this, I'm gonna take it. I might even move it to my wallet or what's happening here for the advertiser is they also, when they get the coupon back, they can track what's working. So maybe they've got this ad in 2 different magazines, and maybe in one magazine they make 10 sales or 100 sales, and maybe some other magazine makes 1,000 sales. So what we know now is not only does that second magazine pull better and get better response, we can drill a little deeper and say, well, what's the demographics? Who reads that magazine? What else do they read? Where else can we advertise? So the exact same ad, they say there are 3 rules of marketing: test, test, and test. So this is how you test, and you can see, who responds to this and why. And so it's a really helpful thing. In addition, I mean, that's worth $2, right there to them, is to get that information, that marketing and demographic information. So here's what I'd like to do. I see we're running down the clock pretty quick. We've got about 10 more minutes. I'd really like to take any questions anyone has. So if you want to, if you've got a question, we'll keep going a little bit while you get a chance to type in your question. And David, if you just interrupt me and let me know when you've got a question and read it out so we can answer. I'd really like to give at least a few minutes of interactivity and answer anything that's on your mind, or any questions that you have, particular to what we've taught or copy you're writing or anything else. So Jillian, if you want to move on and sort of do a recap here, and David, would you please jump in and interrupt us as you have questions?
Sure.
Unless you have some already.
We already have some questions.
Great.
Okay.
First question: are you morally responsible for what you're saying in the writing? What if the product is not actually what it claims to be?
That's a great question. So here's what I think. If I wouldn't do it personally. That's a choice you have to make it. As a business person, I couldn't write it. I think you have to really get behind it. You've got to find something to love in it and something to tell the truth about. And if that pushes against your moral boundaries, don't do it. Just don't write about it. I mean, if it's crap and it's not going to help anybody, don't do it. There are better jobs out there that you'll feel better about making money with.
And the next question, someone mentions the use of scarcity, time-based limits, and negativity. Are there any alternatives, and does it actually work?
Scarcity and time limits do work, and what they, I don't know that negativity does, but scarcity and time limits absolutely work, and you want to employ them. And the reason is we all procrastinate. If we think, we're not going to get in and we really want to go, well, then we'll make the decision to do it. So it absolutely does work, and it works, again, dialing back to what Jillian was saying and talking about psychology and human nature. We procrastinate. So you want something, and what happens? You say, well, okay, I'll do that, and then suddenly you come up against all the reasons, well, maybe I shouldn't spend the money, and maybe it's not the best one, and maybe I should look around, and maybe. But if you have to decide by midnight, then you'll look around and you'll decide by midnight. So,
and I think that there's something different here. Negativity and addressing someone's pain are not necessarily the same thing. Pain is real. And so if you're addressing someone's pain in very real terms, that may seem negative, except that they live it. So for them, the negativity is not the pain. The negativity is what the pain is causing them, how it's shortening their life, how they're not able to do the things that they do. And we do have to make that difference. When, we're not trying to scare people into taking action because of something that might happen necessarily. What we're doing is talking about something that they're already dealing with. And we've been sort of addressing that. There are different ways to do that, and then you have to decide whether you believe that's a valid way to sell or not. But I think when you're addressing pain, it's already real for people. And so giving them a solution out of it is what that is. It's really about that. And time frames always work. I mean, that doesn't mean someone's going to take the action within that time frame, but as people, one of the things that seems to happen is that if we don't put a deadline on when we're going to do something, it typically doesn't get done. The longer things sit without a time frame to get done, the more likely they are to not get done. If you have a garage that needs cleaning, unless you actually say when you're going to do it, it still needs cleaning, because that's just how we are. There are other things that are going to take its place. We prioritize all the time. And by putting a deadline on, you actually get to insert yourself in their prioritizing. That's what you're trying to do. Great question.
So another question. For someone who has never done this before, how long does it take to learn the basics, and how do you break into the market work?
Great question.
Really?
It's different for everyone, how long it takes to learn the basics. And it depends how much time you put in and how much you're willing to practice. We have a boot camp coming up. We'll tell you about that in just a moment. And our goal in that boot camp, it's only 6 weeks long. There'll be we offer other intensives on particular topics, because what happens is you'll find that you'll want to specialize. There's a lot of areas of copy, right? I mean, you can write email, you can write websites, you can do sales letters, you can do autoresponders. I could go on and on. And so the best way to break in and get experience is to just focus on one. Learn the overall things you need to know, because there are certain things that apply to everything that you write. And then there are a lot of ways to break in. You can offer to write somebody's copy or write a piece of copy at a very low cost or for free. An organization that or it's maybe a charitable organization. Get a portfolio piece and you'll be off and running. There's a lot of ways to do that. We'll address that in the boot camp, but it's a question of practice, and it's different for everyone. And I don't mean to be vague, but if you just get in there and start, you'll know when you feel ready.
And I think the other piece to this, too, is that depending upon what you do with your time, I salute you. If you're new, you're here. So you could have learned all of the information we gave you today on your own. But how long would it have taken you? And there lies the answer to your question. It's like, what are you going to do to move your education forward faster? Because you could have gone to lots of books that are written already about how to write copy, and you would have found these things, but then you have to put them together. So it's depending upon how you choose to use your time and then how well you practice with what you get. It's going to move your, go from 6 months to 6 years, if you will. You get 6 years worth of experience under your belt because you're working with people who help you compress what you're doing in a shorter amount of time. Have any more, David?
We have time for one or two more questions real quick.
Let's see. How do you find your niche?
Boy, that's a bigger question. There's a lot of ways to find a niche, and there's two things though. You want to be able to find a niche to write in where there's a need, and so it's where something that either you know about or you're really keen to learn about overlaps with a place that there's a need. So in other words, one of the things you'll hear a lot is that there's a lot of writing in the nutritional and wellness sector. If that's something that interests you or that you know about, bingo, you've got a fit. There's a lot of need in the financial sector. You don't need to know, but you have to be willing to learn. And it needs to be something, you don't want to just go there because there's a need. You want to go there if there's a need and you like it, because you're going to be spending a lot of time there. So if it doesn't resonate with you and you find, finance boring and it's a drag, then don't make it your niche, because, you won't enjoy it. There needs to be some excitement on your part, so you can bring that to the copy. So, look around, see where, who's using copywriters, and then find where that dovetails either with something you have an expertise in and an interest. And obviously that's the short answer, and we talk more about that in some of our classes, but that's a good place to start. And let's take one more before we wrap up and keep respectful of everyone's time.
Sure. The last question, do you think it's important to have finished formal education to get into copywriting? Do you need a background in English or writing before you get started?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you for asking it. I'll tell you what, it's one of the few professions that offers freedom, flexibility, autonomy, and great income where you don't need a degree. The San Francisco School of Copywriting offers certificate courses. We've got one we're going to tell you about here in just a second. That's pretty interesting coming up. But you really don't need a degree. And I would encourage you to get some education, learn the basics, become a sponge, take some courses through San Francisco or somewhere else if it suits you better, and read some books. There's a lot of great things out there, and they are books. I wouldn't encourage you to there's a lot of stuff online, but I'd encourage you, look at Dan Kennedy, look at Bob Bly. There's some good writers out there. I think David has some references on the San Francisco site of some books you can read to get started. But don't be intimidated. This is Dan Kennedy, who's one of the highest paid copywriters probably on the planet, has almost no formal education. Smart as can be, and really very savvy marketer. But follow in his footsteps and you'll do great. So let's just well, yeah, who wouldn't do great following in his footsteps? But let's move on here and just and close out. And by the way, if you have more questions, shoot them over to info@San Francisco School of Copywriting.com, and we will aim to answer them, just so that nobody gets left unheard.
And let's make sure that everybody knows that that you have an opportunity here to get one of your pieces actually looked at now. So here's the thing. You saw the secrets. You've heard us. You've seen what they do. They're only going to work, like any information, if you practice and incorporate them into your writing, right? As valuable as they are still only the tip of the iceberg. You were here for an hour. Copywriting is huge. Learning to write copy there's all kinds of ways and directions you could go, and there's lots that you can do, which is why David Alger asked us to put together this next course that's coming up. It'll allow you to develop and begin to develop your A+ writing skills. Beginning next week on Wednesday, right, May 1st, at the same time that you showed up for this, we're starting a 6-week copywriting boot camp. It'll teach you powerful direct response copywriting skills that will help you, if you're an independent copywriter, create your own income. If you already work for clients, if you're an employee working for someone else in writing copy, it will actually make you way more, how do I want to put this, way more valuable to them, right? These will get more sales for the business that you're already working for. They'll advance your career. It's a serious class. If you're not ready to do this work, this is not the class for you. So we're inviting you and also uninviting you. This is a class where you will have homework. It will not be homework for homework's sake. We don't do that. You will get work you're going to go back and work on, come back and share with us. We're going to then share it with everybody else. You're going to talk about how it's written, what you need to do with it. There will be a group. It will be a Facebook group where you'll share with each other. You'll have a place to network, be able to exchange ideas. Again, if you don't want to do the work, it's not for you. We're serious about this. When you're finished, if you don't already have a portfolio piece, You will. You will also have a certificate from the San Francisco School of Copywriting so that you'll have something for your resume as well. You can put it on your wall and put it on your resume. This is a serious copywriting program. It's a serious 6 weeks to actually get you moving from where you are now to writing winning copy that you feel good about and you feel confident about. Again, it starts next Wednesday. There's 2 things happening here now. Put your copywriting hats on, because we're going to do something that we've actually even had a question about this. First, there is a special webinar price. The price of this seminar, if you buy it after the special is over, is $449. There is a special webinar price of $349. It's our early bird. It will go away. I think by midnight tonight you need to do this. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. It'll go away in a couple of days, and we'll tell you about that in just a second. But here's the piece that will go away. We said we would critique one of your pieces, not a piece that you're doing in the class, a separate piece for anybody that actually registers for the call for the program today. That goes away at midnight tonight. So if you would like to have your piece critiqued, whatever you're working on or something that you develop in the course, separate from the work that we do, we will look at it for you. And we will give you real feedback so that when you're finished, you have a tight portfolio ready. This is the kind of work I do piece that you can show to clients, something that you can show them, along with the certificate from the program. And this was an interesting thing. Amy and I talked about this in terms of what we should do, how much we could do, what we thought was important, how many we could handle, and we just decided to go for this and open it up to anybody that actually registers now, as opposed to doing, for the first 10 or first whatever. So this is on the table for you if this is something you'd like to do. So without that, this is a great course. With that, you'll end up with not one finished piece for your portfolio, but for 2. This boot camp will take your copywriting skills to the next level. You'll walk away again. If you don't act today, you'll walk away with 1 piece. If you do act today, you'll walk away with 2, portfolio ready, and a certificate of completion for your resume and something to put on the wall. So in order to do this, you go to, and you'll see on the slide that's up right now, it's San Francisco.
Okay, the slide that's up right now is incorrect, just so you know. There's a mistake in the slide. So just be aware of what everyone's looking at is not correct. But go ahead and read it off. The correct version is San Francisco School of Copywriting.com/webinar special.html. And we'll shoot you an email with that so you have a direct link. So it's San Francisco School of Copywriting.com webinar special.html. If you join you have 36 hours until tomorrow to pay $349 to save $100. And if you sign up by midnight tonight, you'll get the offer of the critique piece, of the detailed critique piece of something in your portfolio. So that's it. That's a wrap. If anybody has any more pressing questions, particularly about the boot camp, I'll take a couple of those, or we can take a couple of those before we let you go. We're a few minutes past time, but if anyone has anything, shoot it over, and David, let me know if they do.
Sure. One quick question. Will this course address copywriting for the digital environment?
Yes. In fact, if you go to the website, you'll see a course outline. So we will address that. Absolutely.
And understand that the basics of copywriting are really the same for any environment. There are tweaks, obviously, and specialties, but the fundamental basics of copywriting, you're still dealing with people. You still have to get their interest. Go ahead, David.
If you have a client you are working for, can you focus your assignments in the course around that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the good things, we're going to do a Facebook group, so you'll get a chance to build a cohort of colleagues and people who can help you with copy critique, people you can network with. But yeah, you can work if you've got work that you're using, bring it in and we'll improve it. And we can use that because every week there'll be actual live critique and an opportunity to send us work to look at. So it's a pretty hands-on course, and you've got something you're working on, bring it. That'd be great. It'll benefit everyone, I believe. Anyone else? Any last questions?
We have a question. how will the course work? Deal with social media, or will it include social media training?
We're not going to touch social media in this particular course. If you take it, there will be specific offshoots or intensives that will come after this course, and so that some of which will stand alone, but we will not address social media marketing specifically in the boot camp. Because it's only 6 weeks, so we can't do everything. We had to choose, and so this is focusing on, and you'll see the course outline. We're focusing on a number of other topics. Anything else?
Is there a difference between writing copy for an external audience versus writing to a company's employees or staff? And will the course cover that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I say absolutely, and it's actually gray. It's not black and white. It depends what you're writing. It depends what you're writing internally. I think this will improve your communication skills no matter what, because you're still looking to motivate people and to communicate with people. And some of the things that you'll learn about understanding, picturing your audience out there and understanding them, and sort of, what the writing does is it creates a bridge between you or the company. You may be representing the company, you may be writing for, somebody, an executive in the company, but the writing creates the bridge between you and that person. And so how to speak to them in a way that they're going to understand, so they'll take action. Maybe you're trying to motivate a team, or maybe you're trying to inform a team or teach them. Whatever it is, you'll have a much better way of making sure that the message is understood and probably enjoyed, because if people enjoy what they're reading, they'll A, they'll read it all the way through, and B, they'll take more away from it. So yeah, the answer is yes.
And also, just as a heads up on the boot camp, it is of course recorded, so you'll have a lifetime access to the webinars. You'll be able to get in and take a look at them again. It's not a come to one class and then be out of it, because we do truly believe that the better you get, that the better the webinar gets for you. In other words, the first time you go through it, there's an awful lot of, wow, what was that, and the second time you go through, it's like, how did they edit this? I don't remember this. And so, you will get to take this again and again and again and use this again and again and again. So it's a huge opportunity to really polish your skills, just huge. Don't forget, if you want that extra portfolio piece, go ahead and join us. Do it today. Don't put it off and tomorrow wish you had. Do it today and get an additional piece, so that when you leave this course, you will actually walk away with 2 portfolio pieces, 2 more if you already have them. We will do everything we can to make sure that you improve your copywriting skills in the next 6 weeks. And you can, as long as you show up and do the work with us. That's all it takes. We'll take care of the rest for you. I promise you that. So, David, thank you very much. This was wonderful. And Amy, as always, it's a pleasure to work with you.
Right back at you. Thank you, David, so much.
Yeah. All right, everybody. You have a great day. Go ahead and you have an email coming with that URL again, and it is San Francisco School of Copywriting.com/webinar special.html. Thank you all for joining us. We had a great time. Please shoot over the questions that you would like to have asked and didn't, and we will get back to you. And come join us. You will not be sorry. And if we didn't mention it before, last but certainly not least, it's guaranteed. If you don't think that we delivered what we said we would deliver, we will deliver your money back. We will be surprised, but you're not at risk here. Thank you again. Bye-bye now.